Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive into some seriously mind-bending stuff today.
Always up for a good mind-bending session.
Perfect, because we're going deep on this one, talking about the connections between awareness, information, and energy.
Okay, sounds intriguing. Where are we starting?
Well, we found this dialogue about cutting-edge physics and technology. And let me tell you, it raises some big questions.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, for instance, could we actually unlock new energy sources just by understanding how information shapes reality?
Whoa. Okay, yeah, I see where this is going.
Or how about this? What if time travel is theoretically possible, like we could actually do it, just by tweaking the way information flows?
All right, you've definitely got my attention now.
And then, pushing it even further, is biological immortality on the table if we apply these principles to the human body?
Okay, yeah, you weren't kidding about the mind-bending part. It's like these ideas are all separate, but somehow, at the same time, they're all deeply intertwined.
That's exactly what's so fascinating about this. Almost like they hold some kind of hidden code to the universe.
I like that. A hidden code.
So, to start cracking this code, let's unpack this idea that awareness is not passive. I mean, we usually think of awareness as just, noticing things, but this dialogue suggests it's way more active than that.
Right. It's not just about sitting back and observing. It's about how we actively participate in shaping reality.
So the source material makes this connection to the observer effect in quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
The idea that observing a particle can actually change its state.
Exactly. It's like the act of observation is a force in and of itself.
So it's not just that we see something, it's that our seeing changes things at a fundamental level.
You got it. And when you apply this concept beyond just the quantum world, it gets really interesting. It suggests that our awareness is actually shaping the fabric of reality.
Wow, that's a huge shift in perspective. Makes you wonder what the implications are for, well, everything.
And here's where things get even wilder. The source material dives into this idea that information itself has the potential to be converted into energy.
Hold on, you're saying information isn't just an abstract concept. It has an actual measurable connection to energy.
That's what this is pointing to, yeah.
But how does that even work?
Think of it like this. A laser beam, it's got incredibly focused energy, right? But scatter that same light, and it loses its power.
So you're saying it's like the difference between a focused laser beam and scattered light. One is powerful, the other weak. But why?
Structure. In a laser, all the light waves are perfectly aligned. They're coherent, and that's what gives them that concentrated power.
Okay, so it's the organization of the information, its structure that makes it powerful.
Exactly. And this idea of coherence information flowing in a structured, organized way keeps coming up in the source material. It's presented as the key to unlocking this hidden energy potential.
Okay, I'm following you. Coherence equals power. But can you give me some real-world examples, something a bit easier to grasp?
Sure. Think about superconductors, those materials that can conduct electricity with, zero resistance. They work because their electrons are flowing in perfect alignment, pure coherence. Now, compare that to normal conductors, where electrons are bumping around randomly, wasting energy.
So in a superconductor, because the flow of information, the electrons in this case, is so coherent, you get near-perfect energy transfer. That's amazing.
It is. And this principle isn't limited to just physics. The source also talks about how brainwave synchronization during meditation, when the brainwaves become more coherent, it can lead to all sorts of benefits. Heightened awareness, even healing.
So we're seeing this coherence principle pop up everywhere, whether we're talking lasers, superconductors, or even our own brains. It really does seem like the secret to efficiency and power.
Exactly. And the source gets even deeper into this, outlining what it calls the 4 key principles for structured information systems.
Okay, lay those on me. What are they?
They are resonance matching, phase alignment, fractal hierarchy, and feedback loops.
All right, let's break those down a bit. What's resonance matching?
It's all about finding the right frequency. The information needs to resonate with the system it's trying to affect to have a real impact.
So it's like tuning a radio to the right station to get a clear signal?
Perfect analogy. Think of those bioelectric therapies that use specific frequencies to, stimulate healing, or tapping into the resonant frequencies of the quantum vacuum to extract energy. It's all about matching vibrations.
So finding the right frequency is like finding the key that unlocks the door to a specific process or effect.
Exactly. And then there's phase alignment, which is all about timing. The information waves need to be perfectly aligned to amplify each other. If they're out of sync, they actually cancel each other out, and you lose the effect.
Oh, okay. So if the waves are in sync, they boost each other, but if they're out of sync, they weaken each other.
Right. Kind of like synchronized swimmers. They have to be perfectly timed to create those amazing formations.
I like that, yeah. So, and phase alignment, this is important for things like quantum entanglement, right? Where particles are linked no matter how far apart they are.
Exactly. It's like they're dancing in perfect harmony, even across vast distances.
All right, so what about this fractal hierarchy thing? That one sounds pretty complex.
It's all about repeating patterns. The most efficient structures, they repeat themselves at different scales, creating this nested hierarchy of information.
Okay, I can see that in nature, like the branching of a tree or a seashell, even a snowflake. They all have that repeating structure at different levels.
Exactly. And we see it in technology, too. Think of Tesla coils. They use fractal geometry to, efficiently amplify energy. Or even DNA, that double helix packing all that information for life into a tiny space.
So it's about packing in and amplifying information in the most efficient way possible.
You got it. And lastly, we have feedback loops.
Right. Those are important for any system that needs to adjust and adapt.
Absolutely. For information to stay coherent and effective, systems need to self-correct in real time, like how our brains are constantly adjusting their activity or how self-tuning AI learns from its mistakes.
So they're like a built-in quality control system, making sure everything stays on track.
That's a great way to put it. And all four of these principles working together, that's the foundation for building systems that can truly harness the power of structured information.
This is some seriously mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how we can apply all of this to real-world problems.
Yeah.
What are the actual implications of all of this?
Well, the possibilities are almost endless. These principles have the potential to revolutionize fields like biological self-repair, energy generation, quantum computation, and even time manipulation.
Hold on. Time manipulation. Like actual time travel. Now we're really getting into sci-fi territory.
Maybe not as far-fetched as it sounds. The source suggests that by controlling information flow, we might be able to influence the perception of time, maybe even affect biological aging.
Okay, now you've really got my attention. Let's dive deeper into these potential applications and see what this could look like in the real world.
It sounds like a plan. It really makes you think. What else might be possible if we crack this code, What if we could actually reshape reality itself?
Yeah, it's almost like we're on the verge of this whole new era of scientific understanding. Like everything we thought we knew about energy, biology, even reality itself is being challenged.
Right. And it all comes back to this idea, the future of energy, health, computation, it might all hinge on understanding and manipulating this flow of information.
This reminds me of something we touched on earlier, the idea that awareness isn't just the end product, but a fundamental part of the process. It's like a feedback loop, constantly shaping and being shaped by this flow of information and energy.
Absolutely. And when you really think about it, that's the key to all those amazing applications we're discussing. Bioelectric healing, vacuum energy, time manipulation. It all comes down to understanding how awareness interacts with information to shape reality.
Okay, so let's go back to those applications for a minute. We talked about the potential for biological self-repair. What does that actually look like in practice? How can we actually use these principles to heal the body?
Well, the source material goes into some fascinating specifics. One idea is to tackle this thing called cellular entropy. You see, as we age, our cells, they accumulate this informational noise, leads to dysfunction and eventually aging.
So it's like our cells are losing their ability to communicate clearly, kind of like a game of telephone where the message gets garbled along the way.
Exactly. And this is where that principle of coherence comes in again. The source suggests that by applying these coherence principles, they even mention something called phase-locked molecular resonance. We could restore that information fidelity within our cells, like hitting the reset button on aging.
So it's like giving our cells a software update. Wow.
Right. And there's another cool concept connected to this zero entropy mitochondrial energy systems. Now, mitochondria are the powerhouses of our cells, right?
Yeah, every biology class I ever took drilled that into my head.
Well, they decline with age too, leading to less energy and more cellular damage.
Like the batteries in our cells are slowly running out of juice.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Mitochondria aren't just energy factories. They're also incredibly sensitive to information flow. It's like they're these tiny bioelectric quantum processors.
Whoa. Okay, so if we can figure out the information structures that govern mitochondrial function, we could maybe boost their energy output.
Yeah.
and slow down aging.
You got it. And this idea of using structured information to, like, enhance biological function goes even further. The source talks about this concept of neural information enhancement, essentially expanding consciousness and extending our cognitive lifespan.
Wait, are we talking about making our brains work better and preventing that age-related cognitive decline?
You're catching on. Remember how we talked about brainwave synchronization being so important for focus and healing? Imagine taking that to the next level, using structured information to actually enhance memory and cognitive abilities.
So not just slowing down cognitive decline, but actually boosting our mental capacity. That's amazing.
Right. It's a bold idea, but based on these principles, not entirely out of the realm of possibility. Imagine a world where you could maintain a sharp mind, constantly learning and evolving throughout your entire life.
Sign me up. Okay, so we've talked about boosting brain power and slowing down aging, but what about this idea of biological self-repair using quantum information encoding? Is that even something that's, like, actually possible?
It might sound like science fiction, but the principles behind it are grounded in science. Remember those axolotls we mentioned? The ones that can regrow entire limbs?
Yeah, those little guys are amazing.
The source suggests that their regenerative capabilities are rooted in their ability to store and retrieve these perfect regeneration patterns. It's like biological information structuring at its finest.
So they've got a blueprint for regeneration encoded in their very being.
Exactly. And if we can understand those blueprints, imagine the possibilities. We might be able to apply those same principles to human regeneration, maybe even map and apply these synthetic quantum-structured biofields to human stem cells to, like, reprogram cellular regeneration.
So instead of just treating symptoms or replacing damaged tissue, we can actually program our bodies to heal themselves.
Wow.
It's a whole new way of thinking about medicine, and it goes beyond just healing injuries. Think of aging itself as a form of accumulated damage. What if we could master this biological information structuring and actually reverse or halt that process?
That's like hitting the reset button on our biological clocks.
Huh.
But hold on, didn't we say earlier that time manipulation was more about changing our perception of time?
Right, but the source is suggesting that our perception of time and biological time might be way more interconnected than we think.
Okay, I'm listening. How would we even manipulate biological time? Is that even possible?
Well, one idea is to use time perception to slow down aging. Remember those subjective experiences of time dilation, like during meditation, or those near-death experiences people talk about?
Yeah.
What if we could intentionally induce those states to slow down our internal clocks?
So it's like tricking our bodies into thinking time is moving slower. Exactly. And it all comes back to the idea that time might be an emergent property of information processing. If we can control how fast our brains and bodies process information, maybe we can influence how fast we age.
Okay, that's time dilation. What about reversing time? Is that even remotely possible?
The source mentions this thing called the quantum Zeno effect. Basically, it says that a system that's observed continuously, it stays in its current state longer, almost like the act of observation is freezing it in time.
Wow, so instead of just slowing down the clock, we could potentially rewind it. Now we're really in Back to the Future territory. But how realistic is any of this?
It's definitely a mind-blowing concept, and it highlights just how much we still don't know about time. But if these principles are true, the implications for human lifespan and health are just incredible.
This is unbelievable. It's like we've gone on this journey through the fabric of reality, exploring these deep connections between awareness, information, and energy. But how do we go from all these amazing concepts to real-world applications? How do we bridge that gap between theory and reality?
That's the million-dollar question, right? How do we get from these big ideas to actual solutions? Well, the source stresses the importance of starting small. We got to focus on proof of concept experiments that can actually show these principles in action.
So like building a model before constructing the actual skyscraper. Got to be sure the foundation's solid.
Exactly. We need to start with experiments that are, both rigorous and achievable, using current technology to test these groundbreaking ideas.
Okay, so what kind of experiments are we talking about here? Give me some concrete examples.
Well, one experiment they suggest is all about manipulating those bioelectric fields of cells. Remember all that talk about bioelectric stimulation for healing and regeneration?
Yeah, like giving our cells a little electromagnetic nudge. But how do we know we're nudging them in the right direction?
That's what this experiment would explore. You'd take a culture of human cells and expose them to these carefully controlled bioelectric fields. Then you measure their growth and regeneration rates.
So you've got your control group, and then the group receiving these bioelectric signals. See if there's any difference in how they behave.
Right. And the key here is to use those structured bioelectric fields, the ones based on those principles we discussed. Resonance matching, phase alignment, the whole 9 yards.
So not just random electricity. It's got to be those specific structured signals that mimic how the body naturally communicates.
Precisely. And if we find that the cells exposed to these fields, if they're showing enhanced growth and regeneration compared to that control group, it would be pretty strong evidence that we're onto something.
That would be huge, like a major step towards those bioelectric therapies that could totally revolutionize medicine.
Absolutely, a game changer for sure. The source also talks about another cool experiment, focusing on, you guessed it, the quantum vacuum.
All right, back to the quantum vacuum. What are we testing this time?
Remember that idea of creating those phase-patterned resonance fields to extract energy from the vacuum?
Yeah, like creating a little energy whirlpool in otherwise empty space.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty out there.
Well, that's what this experiment aims to figure out.
Yeah.
Basically, you create a mini vacuum chamber and use lasers to generate these structured electromagnetic fields inside it.
So a scaled-down version of that big vision we were talking about.
Yeah.
Trying to manipulate that vacuum energy with lasers.
Exactly. And the key is to measure the energy distribution inside that chamber, but with crazy precision. If we find those zones of higher energy density and they line up with the patterns we created in the field, well,
That would be pretty convincing evidence, wouldn't it?
it would be monumental. It would mean we found a way to actually tap into this potentially limitless energy source.
Like finding a whole ocean under a desert.
Yeah.
All that untapped potential just waiting to be used. The implications are huge.
Absolutely transformative. Think clean energy, space travel, the possibilities are endless.
Okay, so bioelectric healing, the quantum vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
What about quantum computing? What can we do in that area?
Well, the source talks about building a small-scale quantum computer that uses these information structuring principles to stabilize its qubits.
So instead of those old methods for maintaining quantum coherence, we're using resonance matching, phase alignment, feedback loops, all that stuff to build a more stable system from the ground up.
You got it. Start with a simple computer, maybe just a handful of qubits, and compare its performance to one that doesn't use these principles.
Like a head-to-head test. See which one comes out on top.
Exactly. And you'd measure the coherence time of the qubits. You know how long they can hold on to their quantum state before collapsing.
So basically, how long can those delicate bubbles stay intact?
Perfect analogy. And if the information-structured computer wins, well, that opens up a whole world of possibilities.
It would be a major breakthrough. Quantum computers that are more stable, more reliable, actually ready to be used.
Yeah.
Okay, so last but not least, time manipulation. Any way to test those wild ideas?
They suggest starting with experiments on that neural time dilation we talked about, using specific frequencies to influence the brain's sense of time.
Right, like tricking the brain into thinking time is moving faster or slower. But how do you even know if it's working?
That's where the experiment comes in. You expose volunteers to these carefully calibrated sounds or visuals containing those specific frequencies. Then measure their subjective experience of time.
So create a controlled environment where you can tweak people's perception of time and see if it actually has any measurable effect.
Exactly. And if we can reliably induce these states of time dilation or even time compression, it would be a huge step toward understanding how that information flow shapes our experience of time.
Like cracking the code of our internal clocks.
Wow.
Well, this has been quite the deep dive. As we wrap things up here, what's the one big takeaway you hope people walk away with?
I think the most important thing is this. We're on the brink of a major paradigm shift in how we understand reality. That old separation between mind and matter, between information and energy, it's fading away.
It's like we're seeing the universe as this grand symphony of information, this cosmic dance of energy and consciousness. And we're not just passive observers anymore.
Exactly.
No.
We can be active participants in this cosmic dance. We can shape and mold reality using our minds, our technology. It's exciting, but it's also a big responsibility.
It is a lot to take in, but it's also incredibly hopeful. It means we're not locked into some predetermined future. We can create the world we want to live in.
And that's a powerful message.
It really is. So to everyone listening, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
The future isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we create.
And with the power of information at our fingertips, that future is brighter than ever. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We'll see you next time for another mind-expanding adventure.